All right, what's going on, party people? It is about that time to get started with our first DJ pro tip stream, DJ stream, competition music stream, etc. It's the first time that I'm doing the live thing, so if there's any sort of technical issues, I apologize for those in advance. And if you are in chat, just holler out and let me know if I can, if anything needs to be fixed in terms of volume, etc. Today we're going to talk about competition music and everything that goes into that topic from a DJ's perspective. We're dividing this up into 3 different sections. The sections are the basics, where we're going to talk about literally just kind of like first steps into setting up competition music, both as a DJ as well as the value you're going to receive from it as a dancer. The next step, which are going to be more advanced ideas and additional items to think about if you've already done this before or are looking to progress. And then the final section we're just calling and beyond, which is a more nebulous discussion on the different ideas that come up, questions, concerns, problems, other generic issues that come up with competition music, and things that we can do to deal with those. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is what we're going to use as our guiding principle throughout this whole stream, as well as you could say it's your guiding principle as a DJ on the whole. And that is this idea that we are here to provide music for dancers. We are working in the service of someone else's creativity, and that deserves everything that we've got. So for everyone watching this live and everyone watching this later on YouTube, first step, awesome. You're looking to improve your DJ skills, which will only serve to improve their creativity and amount of inspiration that you're providing to the dancers. And so that's something that we're going to be kind of coming back to quite a bit during this discussion. The other thing that we're also going to kind of ride along is this idea that you are going to fail sometimes, and that's okay. Failure brings growth. So long as you are ready to accept responsibility and criticism. This, being a swing DJ, being a competition DJ takes a lot of work, and you will not start successful. So you're going to fail, and you're going to fail pretty hard. I have several times, but it's how you learn from that, how you grow, and what you do afterwards that will turn into successes. So let's start with some basic topics here under the basics. And let's see here. Let's blow this up a little bit. Yes, Scott, we're going to get to that. All right, man. God, why you got to bring that up already? Just so quickly. Just so quickly. All right, so we're going to start here at, and much better. A little bit bigger view. First question is going to be, how much music do you need? And that question's unknown. You're looking at, well, how big is the competition? How many competitions do I have? What are the formats of the competition? What are the expectations of the promoters? That is the first question that you ask, but it generates a whole series of additional questions. And so the following are going to be those questions. So how long for a single song? What is the format? How many songs per heat? Or how many competitors per heat / division? And that is, so we take these one at a time. How long for a single song? Well, it kind of depends on what the format is. So we look at what is the format. There are many different formats that a competition can take. Obviously, you have your prelims, and your prelims are going to be traditionally heat based. And heat based, we all know what that is. In case we don't, it's where we get a whole bunch of people out on the floor dancing at one time in a single heat. We divide up the total number of participants in the competition into hopefully no more than 3, possibly sometimes 4, and they'll dance in each individual heat. Beyond that, we're looking at the different format for the finals. So for this finals, you can have spotlights where you have a single couple on the floor dancing all by themselves. You can have dual spotlights where you have 2 couples at a time dancing on the floor. You can have a phrase battle where you have couples that are streaming out onto the floor dancing for either a specific quantity of time or, in this case with phrases, specific quantity of phrases. You can have jam style, which is more freeform, where it's kind of like a jam circle and people are coming in and out as they please. That one is probably the easiest for us to do, since we put on a song and let them have at it. But let's go through here now and answer, well, how long for a single song? So if we look at prelims, traditionally, each song is going to be a minute and a half. That was something that was established years ago, well before me. It seems to work really well, giving plenty of time for the competitors to feel like they've gotten enough time to showcase their stuff. And the songs aren't too long to where they're either getting tired or the audience is losing interest or the judges have already completed their judging. In a heat, traditionally, you're looking at 3 songs per heat. If you are in a semifinals, then you are looking possibly at 4 songs, and that's only going to be 1 heat. Because it's 1 heat, they get a little bit more time. An extra minute and a half really isn't going to set back a lot of schedules. So oftentimes it'll go to 4 songs. If someone starts talking about, cutting 15 seconds off of a heat for a song, that's 15 seconds times 3 for 1 heat. That's 45 seconds. 3 heats, that's under 3 minutes. I don't really think 3 minutes is going to set off too many schedules. I think a minute 30 is a very well expected song length that people are practicing to and start develop muscle memory as to when the songs are about to end, how long they've been on the floor. So a minute 30 is pretty much what we're going to be running. Spotlights, where you have a single couple on the floor, those are also run at a minute 30 each, because that's plenty of time for that individual couple to showcase themselves, to do all their tricks, all their cool things. Not too much time, so where, again, it becomes an endurance contest or people start to lose interest. However, with dual spotlights, traditionally we're looking at 2 minutes. And the reason why that shifts up to 2 minutes for dual spotlights is you have 2 couples that are spotlighting at a time. And for the most part, that extra 30 seconds is given to the judges. They are going to be splitting time between each couple. And so in order for each couple to have a, not significant per se, but enough time on the dance floor to showcase themselves, it's traditionally phrased out to 2 minutes, or phrased out as traditionally extended to 2 minutes for the spotlights in a dual spotlight. Phrase battle, this one is up for debate or up for discussion. Traditionally, you're looking at, maybe 8/8 twice through for Lindy Hop, with a final all skate out the song. Traditionally with Balboa, you're looking at 16/8 twice through. Same thing, final all skate out the song. This is probably one of the most difficult styles of competition for a DJ to handle, because the quantity of finalists is never predetermined. When you're dealing with spotlights, dual spotlights, even prelims, finding an extra song or having 2 extra songs is not really, a big deal. You come prepared. But when you're dealing with a phrase battle and you have 8/8 twice through, you run into a massive quantity of problems with, well, this song is really good for 5 couples, but not 6. Also, maybe the well-known song that you want to play is a 12-bar blues, not traditional 4/4 timing. So you have to make sure that the MC/counter is aware of that. And as Scott pointed out in the group, yep, totally happened to me. That was one of my failures. I think it was Rocket in Rhythm, right, Scott? That by Duke, that's actually a 12-bar blues. And they were supposed to be 8/8, and I didn't tell Scott. And hopefully Scott was able to, on the fly, correct the dancers. And Scott did in Arizona as well. Yep. It happens to many people. The other interesting thing that happens a lot is you find out that Duke Ellington is traditionally absolutely awful for phrase battles because his arrangements are no, Karen screwed it up. Well, you can throw Karen Hopkins under the bus if you want to, Scott, but I'm going to tell everyone that you did it. Traditionally, Duke Ellington arrangements are not scripted great for phrase battles. There's often, a 2-bar bridge. There's 4 extra notes here. There's 5 extra notes there. It's very, very strange. Even Benny Goodman's Swing Time in the Rockies has a really weird 2/8 bridge, I believe, somewhere toward the end. So, really listening to your music and understanding what the song does when, so that if that two counts of 8 happens right after the last couple is going out, well, that's actually perfectly fine, and the song would be brilliant in that spot. But if that last 2/8 is at the start of, the second to the last couple, well, now the phrasing is out of whack, and it just isn't going to match very well visually, because the phrase will end and the couple is still on the floor, and then 2/8 later, the next couple comes out. And so that's where it's, again, why DJing phrase battles takes a lot of work and a lot of time to understand what the structure is of the songs and what number of couples that they work well for. Jam style, real easy. Put on a cool song, watch people dance. Nothing too odd about that. How many songs per heat? We covered that up here for the prelims and semifinals. The other thing too that we should want to talk about is going to be all skates for finals. If you are looking at a mix and match style competition, then a opening all skate for the finals is something that I love to have, because you're looking at bringing dancers out on the floor, randomly pairing them up, and then expecting them to showcase. Some mix and match finals are spotlighted. So if you're telling these people, well, we're not going to let you dance with your fresh partner right here that you possibly have never danced with before, I think that's a little unfair. So for mix and matches, I love almost requiring an opening all skate. For opens and other partner or strictlies, I guess we'll call them strictlies. Opening all skates are great. I like them. It allows people to get a little bit of the bugs out of their stomach and to kind of just get comfortable on the floor. But oftentimes they're dancing with a partner that they've danced with before, or that they practice with, or that they partner with currently. And so that one is not as required. There are some events, local regional events that sometimes run a little off kilter with their timing and need to shave, a couple of minutes. And I've seen, the opening all skate shaved on that, and I think it's fine, as much as I would much rather prefer to have an opening all skate. Traditionally, the open all skates are a minute. They just need something just kind of get the floor feel, get the butterflies out, and just get the juices flowing. So you don't really need a very long song. In terms of tempos, this often for me runs, about 10%, 10% below their spotlight or dual spotlight or phrase battle tempo. Just something, again, just to get them comfortable, get them moving, and get them relaxed and ready to compete. Because again, we are here as providers of music to inspire these dancers to perform at their highest abilities. So we don't want to throw anything odd from the very get-go. You're also going to have a final all skate, and that one has a little bit more variance. So traditionally, final all skate occurs after the spotlights are done, the phrase battle's done, et cetera, et cetera. Normally, it's about 1.5 minutes. However, I have been enjoying taking a little bit more liberty and finding songs that are in the 2-minute range. I think there's a couple Chick Webb songs, Benny Goodman, Artie Shaw, that are about 2 minutes to 2 minutes 12 seconds or so, and that way you get a really great shout chorus, big crescendo, final blowout to the song, as well as resolution to the song. So if I can find a song that works at 2 minutes or so, 2.5, then I love running one final all skate at that length. Sometimes I have a song that's super cool, and I just run it 1.5 minutes. There are some styles of competitions where the event is looking for 2 final all skates. They want to showcase and highlight possibly, a Lindy Hop event looking to showcase 160, 140, as well as 220. And so sometimes you'll run 2 final all skates. Definitely for that, you're looking at 1.5 minutes, because you don't want it to be in any sort of endurance contest. I have run 3-minute final all skates, and I would say that it's mixed results at this point. I've had a couple that have gone off really well, and a couple that have just been like, well, the song wasn't as good as I'd hoped. The dancers didn't take to it as well as I'd hoped they would, and it just ended up being a little bit too long. So it's a lot of that is kind of depending on who's in the event, etc. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that later. The other thing that we want to talk about is the format of your prelims. So we talked about prelims. Whoops. And prelims have 3 songs, traditionally speaking. For Lindy Hop, I like to run those medium tempo, slow tempo, fast tempo. And then that way you don't have any sort of, again, endurance contest effect. They open up to a nice solid, I'd probably say 170. Going down to the slow song gives them a chance to relax, sit into it at maybe 130, 120, really not exert too much energy, right, in terms of preparing for the final song, which for Lindy Hop, depending on the event and division, 200, 220, something in that range, maybe even a little faster. For Balboa, faster, fastest. Not too concerned about the endurance. The only time that I do get concerned about endurance is when we look at the final all skate. So what I like to do is to identify, and I guess this is for Lindy Hop as well, is letting the dancers know if they're going to get the entire song or not. Because while 1.5 minutes to say 2 minutes is not a huge time difference, it is when you consider what the dancers are trying to accomplish on the floor in terms of, I want to throw my trick, I want to do this, I want to do that. And if they know that they're going to be getting the entire song, which is, roughly 2 minutes, and they know that they're getting the entire song, which gives them a shout chorus at the end, then they might save their big, crazy aerial, balbarial for the end. When, one, it fits the music, and two, it's going to have the most impact. So definitely letting the competitors know how that they're going to get the entire song and roughly how long it is. 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 2.5, etc. I think helps a lot. Letting them know, because if it's only 1.5 minutes, they're just going to dance right up to the end and not worry about it. They aren't going to necessarily change strategies. So let's see. We've talked about. Oh, right. So talking about tempos. Tempos are a real interesting topic of conversation, and one that we're going to talk about in the next section when we get into the next step, and we talk about what makes for a good song. So we will get back to that. Then the other thing to consider is going to be the song styles. And the song styles, we're looking at, trad jazz, swing with a capital S, lowercase swing, small groups, hi-fi, neo, NOLA, etc. And I think that what song styles you choose depends on your competition, depends on your dance style, depends on your region, and depends on what the event is trying to do. So if I am preparing competition music for a Balboa event, it is exclusively going to be swing with a capital S and possibly swing to small group, depending on the format. With Balboa, small groups work really well for pure bow sections, as opposed to swing with a capital S, which also does work well for pure bow, but I really like what small groups do for pure bow. We'll get into that a little bit later. If you're going at a Lindy Hop competition, trad jazz qualifies, swing qualifies, small groups. Your hi-fi neo, which is going to be more maybe like some modern bands or more contemporary bands, as well as NOLA, all qualify. And you would want to look at then, well, what is, oh yeah, you could even type in, as I remind myself, rhythm and blues. Rhythm and blues, like Wynonie Harris, also qualifies as competition valued songs depending on the competition. So what is the difference between swing with a capital S and lowercase swing? So swing with a capital S for me is classic big band swing from the early mid 30s into the 40s. Benny Goodman, Old Testament Basie, Artie Shaw. And then swing with a lowercase s or swing in music is kind of everything else. Small groups can qualify under the big S swing category, but something like, say, Django Reinhardt, Gypsy Jazz, is definitely not swing with a capital S for me. It's a categorization that I use that is not necessarily required by anyone to use, but it's definitely how I like to think about music. In terms of defining it, for when I'm DJing socially, putting together a competition, or talking about it. So going back to song styles for Lindy Hop, and I guess actually we're going to do this. We're going to put our little chat window here so that the video users can also see the chat streaming, because I'm not sure if that's going to show up in the replay. Oh wait, does it actually show up? I think it does show up though, doesn't it? It shows up down at the bottom. We're gonna take it away. All right. Yes. Hi, Scott. Your mom's here. She's making me dinner. All right. So back to back to this. So song styles, we talked about, you know, if it's trad jazz, swing, small group, hi-fi neo, NOLA, rhythm and blues, depends on, you know, for Lindy Hop. Well, now what event are you running this at? So at Camp Hollywood traditionally really enjoys playing rhythm and blues as a part of their competition music, as well as social dancing music. It's a part of the fabric of Camp Hollywood. So at that event, I have no problem throwing in Big Joe Turner, Winona Harris into social DJing as well as competition format. If I was DJing at, or sort of like when I went to IL8C, I wasn't necessarily personally so keen on throwing in rhythm and blues. That wouldn't be. I don't have any association of rhythm and blues to IL8C. Not that it doesn't exist or that it's illegal, but it's not the association that I have. And so if you're looking at a local event, a regional event, you know, whatever the event is, look at any sort of attachments that they have. If your scene is really, really into trad jazz and they want to run a competition, you absolutely should play some trad jazz for the Lindy Hop. I think it's great. I think that it will help to bring out the best dancing. It's music that your scene is comfortable with, that they like to showcase on, so why not play it? Let's talk about, I didn't include, so we talked about, so we have Lindy Hop competition, we have Balboa, we have collegiate shag, we have blues, we have solo jazz, as I lose my key, there we go, solo jazz, Charleston, we'll call it solo Charleston. And that's actually, and I'm sure that there's more that we can get into, but these are the ones that the swing community, I know blues is technically not swing, but there's a lot of crossover people. These are the dances that are traditionally overlapping. Solo Charleston and solo jazz are two different competitions, and something that I enjoy talking about and wanted to make sure that people understand. Solo Charleston is traditionally going to be your 20s Charleston style, even into the 30s style dancing. You're thinking very Dixie, very traddy music. But solo jazz, while it encompasses solo Charleston, solo jazz does not necessarily define itself by the Charleston step. And that means that it's also not defining itself by trad jazz, Dixie, NOLA sound. I love playing Count Basie at 90 beats for a solo jazz competition. I think it's absolutely fabulous. I think that it really helps to differentiate the dancers, to give them a different palette for them to showcase their dancing to. So if your competition is defining itself as solo jazz or something of the like, I've seen like roots, jazz roots competitions, then don't feel like you have to play exclusively Charleston music, right? So like a classic cliche would be like a Sidney Bechet sound. You don't have to play that exclusively. You get to dabble into, 90 beats, 240. I think even for Snowball, they have a jazz roots competition, and we did 90 BPM, probably a 140, definitely a 230, a 190, and then we might have gotten up to 260. And that was a real interesting competition to see these dancers, stretch themselves in terms of their technique as well as their styling. Going to like ordering of this competition, I would probably go 190, 140, 230, 90, 260. That might be something I would do. But that's a little harsh here, the 90 to 260. So maybe we drop this down to 220, and maybe we actually do it this way: 220, 140, or 150, 90. In terms of the orders, song order by tempo, and then that way again we're looking at not creating this or turning this into an endurance contest, but actually showcasing their dance styles and reserving this 260 for the end. That is very intentional. We're looking at wanting to end with a bang. We want to end with the most energy, the most crowd involvement, the most flashy, awesome, crazy stuff that we can get. And so I'll traditionally leave my fastest songs toward the end. You'll also notice that this actually has 5 songs. That is something that we've done at Snowball, and I believe that we did 5 for a couple of reasons. One, it was one giant heat of 40 people, maybe something like that. One giant heat, and we wanted to showcase all these different styles. And I think that we ended up doing like a minute, or did we do? Maybe we did like a minute and a half, and then a minute, and then like 2 minutes. We did a little bit of experimenting in terms of what we were highlighting, what category we were highlighting based on the tempo. And that was something where there was a heavy involvement from the promoters. And that is definitely something we're going to be talking about in the next section, is involvement of the promoters. But when we look at our tempo of the songs, we can talk about that. We can talk about them in terms of the speed of the songs, and it's going to depend on the division. So you have anywhere from novice, beginner, intermediate, advanced, pro, open, invitational. I think that might cover them all. And so depending on the dance style, your tempos are going to vary a lot. Your novices are going to be much slower, much slower. Your beginners are going to be a little bit faster. In terms of your song choices, and we're going to get into this later on, we talk a lot about song familiarity, so we're going to talk about that a little bit later. You're definitely increasing your tempos as we get up to the pro or the open division. But then for the invitational, we end up actually dropping down the tempos, because the invitational is not designed to be a King of the Hill competition. It's really designed to be a showcase of exceptional dancers doing exceptional dancing. So while for, let's say we had a Lindy Hop competition for the open division, which is going to be, all the top pros are going to be in that, and they're competing for $500 and a title. Your final all skate, or your spotlights might come in at 220, 230. Yes, I do have dogs. But for your invitational, for the same Lindy Hop at the same event, you're looking more maybe like 200, 210, 190, depending on what you're looking to showcase. So that this word here, invitational, creates some real unique music and dancing experiences that are very different from everything else. I need to take a very quick break right now. I will be back in about 5 minutes, so don't go anywhere. All right. So, and a lot of there's going to be a lot more information fleshed out later on as we really dig into this content. So for now, a lot of this beginning stuff is just introductory. So the speed of the songs depends on the style. Yeah, obviously, Lindy Hop is highlighted or showcased at a much different tempo than Balboa is. So understand that while Lindy Hoppers can surely swing out at 240, it's not necessarily going to be the tempo of choice for a spotlight for a intermediate Lindy Hop division at your local ballroom. So you're definitely going to want to look at where the pocket is for each style, as well as the event and the region. Traditionally, as the events get larger, you will see your tempos increase. Tempo is a great delineating factor of success. Not everyone can swing out at 300 beats a minute. Swinging out at 300 beats a minute is not necessarily that exciting to watch for 15 minutes if people can't do it. But there is going to be a point where a large number of competitors can swing out at a tempo, let's say 230, and they can highlight the beauty of the dance, but not everyone can execute it to the same timing and technique and beauty as everyone else. And that's the fine line of tempo, where at a local event, you know, your Balboa dancers might really kind of peak at 210. But when I go to Cowbow and do the music there, we're cranking it to 240, 250, 260 even, depending on the format. So event, region, style, division are all dictators on the speeds of the song, as well as promoters. But we're going to leave promoters for later on in this discussion. So the next thing we're going to do in terms of beginnings, we're just going to talk about how to organize music. So just real quickly, not anything super crazy, but organizing spreadsheets are really great. Playlists are obviously really great. And either way that you do it, you want to keep them all. So we'll quickly look at something here. We'll make up a sample competition. So we're going to call this Lindy Hop Prelims Open Division. So I'll go through, I'll categorize that. I'll say that there's Heat 1. They're going to get song 1. Showcasing my keyboard skills. Song 2, and then song 3. And let's say that we've got 3 different heats. I'll do that, and then I'll come in here and I'll say, like, all right, well, what's the tempos that we're looking at? Well, this is Lindy Hop Prelims Open for, I don't know, Camp Hollywood. So we'll say song 1 is going to be 190, song 2 is going to be 140, and song 3 will be 230. And so I'll copy those down, come here, and at this point is when I start selecting the songs. We're going to get into that a little bit later, what goes into good competition versus social music, etc. But here's where you would enter in, song title, artist. For me, I really enjoy putting together competition music for a weekend in which every song is unique. And at ABW, we're looking at, I think it's a little over 100 songs, but 100 songs within like 40 beats of each other, which is pretty crazy. Camp Hollywood is almost as bad, but I don't do the finals for that because that's live music. And for that, the tempo variance is so much greater because you have Collegiate Shag, Balboa, and Lindy Hop that it's a little easier on the music because it'll go anywhere from 110 all the way up to 240. So that makes things a lot simpler. So anyway, so Lindy Hop Open Prelims, and then I'll come down here, Lindy Hop Open Finals, and we're going to have our warm-up, all skate. And that tempo is, say, 190, and then we're going to have Spotlight 1, spotlight 2, and there's going to be, I'll prepare, maybe 11 spotlights. Traditionally, what I like to do is look at the history of the competition and look at the history of the promoters and find out how many that they normally like to have in a competition. So some, place like All Balboa Weekend really enjoys having, they err on the side of more competitors for the finals than other events. So I know that I need to prepare 11 spotlights for the ACBC Open or the ACBC AM finals versus let's say the Snowball, where we're looking at like 6 because it's a smaller event in terms of that Balboa competition. But looking back at your previous playlists, your previous spreadsheets, or if you're new to the event, previous events will help you to determine how many songs you're going to want to prepare. It's really difficult to over prepare by 2 to 3, 4 songs for each division when you've got 100 songs that you're trying to compile all within 40 beats. So do your best. And if you are at a smaller event and you're just starting out, repeating songs, not a problem. The only thing I wouldn't do is I wouldn't repeat within the same competition. So a song that you used for the Lindy Hop Open prelims, I would not use for the Lindy Hop Open finals, but maybe a song for the Lindy Hop Open prelims and you wanted to use it for the amateur Balboa finals. Yeah, I mean, I think that's fine. Look to stretch your collection and look to, gain access to additional resources so that you don't have to do that. But, everyone's going to start somewhere. And so it would be perfectly acceptable. Then I'm going to come down here and we're going to add in Final All Skate 1 as well as Final All Skate 2. Oftentimes judges are looking for additional competition music, which is, to be quite honest and frank, a total pain in my ass. But now that the salt has been exposed, it's something that we have to deal with as DJs. There are some competitions where the dancing is very clear as to who's first, who's second, who's third. And there are other competitions where there is no clear winner, loser, or in between. And the judges need more music to help make that decision. And it happens. This year at ABW, all the prelims went to extra music. There was just no way. Yeah, the judges want one more song. Always. There was no way this year at the ABW prelims that they could do it with the music that they had. And it was just too difficult. And that happens. So having, backup songs, keeping track, let's say that you prepared 3 heats for the Lindy Hop Open prelims here, and you only ran 2 heats. Well, now you just collected 3 new songs that can find a home somewhere else. And so what I also will do is, while the competition is going, is I will mark the songs that get played. So that I know, all right, these songs have already been played. I can't use those if I, on the fly, need one more song. So spreadsheets help a lot, I find, in terms of on-the-fly music choices. Sometimes I get hung out and I don't have a song ready and I don't know what I'm going to do. And so that's where having a relationship with your MC becomes extremely important. Extremely important. The MC is going to be communicating with you, should be communicating with you, how the judges are feeling, what he thinks or she thinks about the competition. If it's super tight and they're probably going to want more music, possibly there's a judge that you might be unfamiliar with who is notorious for requesting additional music. There are judges that do that. And so you may or may not know that, but the MC might. And so the MC letting you know, hey, I think you're going to want to have one more song ready, is super helpful. And then when that moment happens and you say to the MC, hey man, I'm going to need about 2 minutes. Why don't you talk about something or sell something or promote the next event, I'll let you know when I'm ready. And they'll be like, great, no problem. And then they go out there, they do their thing, you get to do your thing, and then it looks a little more seamless than it might appear, rather than, oh my god, I don't have a song, let's everyone just stare at the DJ while they find a track. So having that relationship with your MC, super, super important for situations like this. What I also do then is, so I have my spreadsheets, and while I'm compiling my spreadsheets, I also turn them into a playlist so that when the competition is ready to fire, the competition is ready to fire off, then I just open up the playlist and it's ready to go. It also allows me to know what stuff I've played before, know what songs are going to be played at that event. We're going to get into some of that discussion later on. So let's see here. Oh, I forgot this. So we're going to go back. We're going to go to Spotlights. So on the Spotlights account, traditionally, actually what I run actually 1 minute and 32 seconds. And we're gonna talk about why later on, but I wanted to make sure that I got that written down. Let's see if we actually need to talk about it. I've got notes. I'm just looking at them. Yeah, that, and then that. Actually, we can talk about that right now. All right, so why do I play 1 minute 32? Well, I play it for a couple of reasons. One, it's only 2 extra seconds. However, that 2 extra seconds is that very introduction of the song where the competitors are, oh, look, the song has started. Oh, where is the beat? Oh, there is the beat. I just give them a little 2 free extra seconds. I don't know if it really makes a difference in terms of their performance or the amount of time that they have while competing, but it's something that I do. Likewise, when the timer is ticking down at about 5 seconds, because we traditionally have the best view in the house, and we're watching the competition as it's going, at about 5 seconds left, I stop looking at the competitors and focus on the time, so that when that hits 1:32, I do a 1 second fade. And I do that for a couple of reasons. One is so that I make sure that I don't miss the end of the song and like when it's supposed to actually end. And 2, I don't want anyone to get any sort of favoritism of either me being caught up in a cool move that they're doing and I want to see them finish it, or letting them finish the move to the music. Because the one thing about competition is you also have to put in all of your moves within the allotted amount of time. And so if the DJ is giving you extra time, well, then that's unfair. And so in order to make sure that everything is fair for everybody, I just start looking back down at my screen. I see the 1:32 hit, 1 second fade, done. You can also talk about, in terms of song length, it comes up a lot. Certain songs have an introduction to them. And the introduction could be inaudible, old school announcers. Benny Goodman. There's quite a few tracks that I have like that where I leave that in the opening. Obviously, the dancers aren't going to be expected to dance to those noises. So if it's 6 seconds of Benny Goodman, I'm going to attach 6 seconds to the end of their song, and it will now end at 1:38. However, there's sometimes where, like Digga Digga Doo by Moore's Modern Rhythmists has a very, very curious intro. I believe it's the Duke Ellington arrangement, with heavy drum horn, boom, 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 boom. And when that song was first being cycled around, I actually gave the dancers 4 seconds because most people were highly unfamiliar with it and didn't really know what to do. So I gave them 4 seconds. That's something that you might think about these days, most specifically with local events and regional events, and we're going to talk about familiarity of a song, but if there's maybe a really, really awkward introduction and they're not dancing to it, and it's a local event, a Tuesday night competition, give them a few extra seconds at the end. Again, we're not here to punish people. We're here to encourage them, and we're here to provide a canvas for them to express themselves in the most creative and inventive ways that they can. These days, when I play Dig-a-Dig-a-Doo, that arrangement, there is no free music. They're expected to dance thoroughly through that. That's at events like ABW, Cowbell, Camp Hollywood, where the level of dancing is extremely high. They're going to be dancing through that, and that's for a spotlight. For amateurs, for novices, you're not looking to confuse them, so maybe choose a different song. Maybe choose something that doesn't have the oddity of the bum 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 in the beginning, where they don't really know how to dance to it. Let's see here. So I think that covers the basics. We might return to the basics, but for now, we're going to move on to the next step. And here's where we're going to talk about a real interesting well, no, we're not talking about that first. We're going to talk about this. What makes for a good song? Oh boy. This is probably the meat of the entire discussion, both from a DJ's perspective as well as from a dancer's perspective. Good, we should probably put in quotes, because what I consider to be a quote-unquote good song could be very different from someone else. But let's see what we can do here in terms of identifying a good song. And what we're going to do is we're going to make up a contest. So the contest is going to be a open division. And here in the States, open includes the pros. Open Division Balboa finals, and our format is going to be a warm-up all skate, followed by spotlights with a final all skate. So when we talk about what makes for a good song, we're going to try to focus on this setup here. Because what makes for a good Open Division Balboa final song is very different from beginning blues, obviously, or beginning shag, or prelim, amateur Balboa even. And so we're just going to focus and talk about the components as it relates to this specific competition. Energy of the song for me is, I'm always looking for high energy. I think that high energy competitions really showcase and highlight the dance. I think that it allows the dancers to freely express themselves. For a Open Division Balboa finals, the warm-up all skate might actually have a little less energy. It's a warm-up. It's the all skate. We want people to feel comfortable. We want them to just get loose and just kind of just figure out the floor and what it's like, and if it's slick or sticky, has it changed, and get their first look at what it's like with 200 people staring at them while they compete. So for the warm-up, not necessarily so much energy, but it doesn't mean that it has to be lifeless. Definitely can have a lot of energy, but I'm not necessarily looking for that. For the spotlights, absolutely. I want great energy. I want stuff that gives the dancers an excitement to capture. Versus Lindy Hop, same thing. Shag, same thing. Solo jazz, same thing. Um, I don't do blues competitions. I do blues DJ, but I haven't done a blues competition, so that's the one thing that I can't specifically speak to. Um, but it would be interesting to see how this applies to blues. For the final all skate, I am definitely looking for some energy in the final all skate. But I might be looking for something that starts out real slow in terms of energy, maybe like a swing in the blues, even jumping at the woodside could give me that real chill energy at the beginning, but it has a massive crescendo. It just really lets it fly at the end when the crowd is into it, the dancers are into it, the song's cranking, and they still have energy. If you're looking for something, the dancers still have energy. If you're trying to, you know, like I think it's like the last jump to end all jumps by Barnett, it just goes nonstop. From the very beginning to the very end, it hits you in the face. And that's a great track, and I would use it for a spotlight. For a final all skate, it might be a little long to expect dancers to throw that much energy for 3 minutes, because you have to think that the dancers are also trying to express themselves within the ideas of the song. So if you have a song that starts off really chill, like a Swing in the Blues by Basie, then their dancing is going to be small and delicate and chill, and they're going to be, you know, kind of maybe showcasing some pure bow for Balboa, maybe some cool solo partnered stuff for Lindy Hop. Then when the beat drops, when the chorus kicks in, is when they throw down a real hardcore swing out. The shout chorus comes in. They're throwing aerials for Balboa. There's just nothing but bow swing. They're running around everywhere. Tons of energy, jumping, spinning, turning, possibly throwing carousels, candlesticks. And so to expect a bunch of dancers to dance at that high energy for 3 minutes is really challenging. Also, it makes it a little tough to showcase in spotlight different dance styles. You know, if you have something that just is hitting you upside the head 24/7, well, where's the nuance? Where's the delicacy to the song so that the dancers can show that off as well? That might not be the point of the division. That might not be the point of the event. In which case it doesn't matter. But maybe it is. And that's where, you know, small groups, I think, have kind of like take a back seat when it comes to spotlights, because oftentimes there's not a large volume of energy that they're distributing through the speakers. That's weird. A large volume of energy that they're providing for the dancers, and that it's something that us as DJs want to provide, is good energetic music for the dancers to grab hold of. Tempo. So your tempos, again, we're gonna talk about tempo specifically later. But you know, warm up all skate maybe 10% slower than your spotlight, and then your final all skate is maybe 10-20% faster than your spotlights for this division. But we'll come back to tempos a little bit here. Song familiarity. We're gonna move that there, and let's put this one here. Let's talk about lyrics or no lyrics. This was something that came up, gosh, 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Now's a good time. We're gonna take a quick pause again. The lady came home, so give me one quick second. All right. We are back. All right. So lyrics or no lyrics? Yeah, this was something that came up. Gosh, I want to say maybe it might have even been longer than 4 years, but it came up a while ago, and the conversation was, don't have lyrics in your competition music. And I want to say it was Chris from England, Chris and Janet, who told me that, and I was like, what? Like, I do not understand what you are saying. The concept is lyrics are a vocalization, if you're treating the vocalist as an instrumentalist where her voice is the instrument, the notes that are coming out of his or her mouth can be interpreted by the competitors, which can serve as a distraction. And my response was still, what? So while I can appreciate that vocals are an instrument, the vocals, you can interpret those sound patterns as words. I am gonna say no, sorry, bro. We're keeping lyrics in. Now, the one caveat that I would add to that is that there are some tracks that have lyrics that are great. Business and F by Gene Cardos is awesome because it's more of a sing-along call and response than it is like a vocalization, versus maybe like a Cab Calloway track where Cab just goes way off the rails with his scatting. And it wouldn't necessarily be that the words are confusing, but it's he's going off in some weird direction. So I think that lyrics or no lyrics would apply to would fall into the same category as saxophone or no saxophone. Well, it depends on what that instrument is doing. So swing with a capital S comes back up again, and when we talk about swing music that was created in that era, the golden age of swing, if you will, the soloists were improvising on the melody. And it was something that was very, very, very important to the content of that music. Louis Armstrong talked about it and reinforces the idea, if you're not soloing on the melody, I really don't know what you're doing. However, as music grows and expands and matures and changes, those rules get thrown out, and now you have soloists who are soloing on anything that they want, which is awesome. Good for you. However, it might, those soloists, might provide a distraction. So it's the same thing with the lyrics. Are the lyrics improving the song? Are they making the song worse? Like, how are they contributing to the overall value of the song? Let's see. I think that's Tyler. Is that you, Tyler? I think that's Tyler. Tyler says, between heats, would you keep it quote unquote fair by providing vocals in the same spots for each set of dancers? That's an excellent thing. So yeah, what so I oftentimes play a game with myself while I'm creating my music. I'll have, song 1, song 2, song 3. Actually, let's go over to here. And artist might be R.D. Shaw. And then if you're real keen, all 3 of them are going to be R.D. Shaw. And then I've done this before where I'm like, well, I want all of this to be New Testament bassy. So I'll do this. And then all 3 here are going to be trad jazz. Right? So in a way, a little off tangent here, Tyler, but yeah, we can totally do that by providing vocals. Maybe here is where it's a vocal session. Joe Williams, Jimmy Rushing, right? They're all getting vocals to be quote unquote fair. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. You can also do the same thing with the artists. And we're going to get into this as well a little bit further when we talk about heat construction. But it's not too bad to bend off there. So what makes for a good song? Back to that. Well, what happens at the start? What happens at the end? And what happens in the middle? Well, how does it start off? Jump into the woodside. Dump, 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 dump. And that right there is iconic. It's going to spark the audience to go, wow, oh my gosh, he's jumping at the woodside. Spoiler alert, Jumping at the Woodside is a terrible jam song. Anyway, we'll talk about that another day, or actually we have on the Trading Force podcast, but shameless plug. But what happens at the start, really important. How does the song start? Does it hit you in the face in the very beginning? Is there a 30-second boogie woogie intro? Is there an 8-second vocalization of Benny Goodman, right? Do you need to edit out that undistinguishable vocals? What happens at the beginning of the song? Then you have, actually, that's probably even a separate thing. What happens at the beginning? So very beginning, ground zero. What happens at 0 seconds? Then you have what happens at the start. So how is the song starting? Is it a lot of energy, no energy, piano solo? Are they playing a chorus and repeating it over and 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 over again? Right? That might not give enough meat to the dancers in order to do what they want to do. Then what happens in the middle of the song? Traditionally, this is where you're getting, the middle of the song is where you're going to get most of the comfort of the dancers is going to kick in. The tricks of the dancers are going to kick in. Also, the song is going to transition from a chorus into the solo, toward the middle, late middle. You're also going to get, depending on your tempos for the middle, you're going to get your first chorus, your first big chorus, and kind of something to do. What happens at the end? Now, the end of the required time for the song, i.e. 1 minute, 32 seconds. In the Balboa world, 1 minute 30 is about the time that the band decides to chill out. Over and over and over and over. The Dean Collins Shim Sham, that's right, Joy. Oh my gosh. Yeah, the Dean Shim Sham trainer, the Opus 1 by the Mills Brothers. Oh man. So what happens at the end of the required time for the song? So again, like I was saying, in the Balboa world, it's about time where all the musicians pack up their stuff. And it's a real bummer because a lot of songs, they're really great up until 1 minute 24, 1 minute 25, and all of a sudden it just goes into nothing. Just really chill piano, nothing, and you're just kind of like, it's just like that song just goes wah wah wah, and it's just not. To me, it just sucks, right? Like I don't want to end my spotlight on, oh, well, I guess the song's over. So I'm looking to try to find music that can power through that, right? That can actually give me a nice, solid sound all the way through 1 minute 32. Now, if it ends at 1 minute 31, that's fine, right? I'm not going to be that ticky-tacky about it. But, if it dies out at 1 minute 20, and there's just 12 seconds of nothing exciting, I might shy away from that song. I might not find it to be as exciting as I want it to be. What is the genre? So, as we talked about up here, trad jazz, swing, small group, hi-fi, neo, NOLA, rhythm and blues, etc. That is going to help determine how good a song is, because the genre is very specific to the dance style. Swing dancing is built on swing music. So if the genre is swing music, you're already started in a great direction. However, Lindy Hop over the years has embraced you know, older formats, alternative song styles, song genres, perfectly fine, depending on the competition that you're at. Playing, you know, a trad jazz and NOLA song in a Lindy Hop, yeah, no problem. I like to make sure that, you know, as we did with this here for the prelims, that we have song overlap. You know, Artie Shaw. I wouldn't really want to do trad jazz, small group, right? But we'll come back to this heat construction a little bit later. So genre is most kind of probably the first thing that you're going to be doing. Does the genre apply to what contest that you're running? So now we get into a real sticky thing. Familiarity. And so what do I mean by song familiarity? Well, everyone is let's see here. Everyone's well aware of Bugle Call Rag, right? We've got all these wonderful versions of Bugle Call. This is Music Bee, by the way. Bugle Call Rag sounds great, right? But has anyone ever heard of I think it's this one. Ça se fait pas, if I'm saying that correctly in French. I don't even know if I am. I think it actually translates to something that's actually familiar. But, or yeah, here. The Era to blah, 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 blah by Lee Combel, right? Sent for you yesterday, here you come today. Or, you know, Hangover Blues, Gare du Nord. These are all songs that, you know, fast, slow, medium tempo. I have no idea what that song even is. So song familiarity, when you compare Bugle Call Rag to, and we'll use Morning Feeling. Morning Feeling by Lee Combel, even if they're not actually the same appropriateness for the division. Two very next year. Merci, Stephanie. So song familiarity is really, really important and something that is always up for debate. So a song that is familiar to you might not be familiar to me. A song that is familiar to Balboa might not be familiar to Lindy Hop. A song that's familiar to Denver might not be familiar to New York. A song that's familiar to the US might not be familiar to Sweden, etc., 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 etc. A song that's familiar for Camp Hollywood might not be familiar for IL8C. And that's something that, as a DJ, you're going to struggle with, and that you're going to run into a lot of people that are going to be very upset at familiarity issues. So what do you do? How do you combat it? First thing is you try your hardest to offer an even playing field. You're never going to win, but you can try to score as high as you can. So when you compose your heats, we'll say heats, or actually no, we're doing open division warm up, all skate, and finals. So we're doing down here. When you're composing your spotlights, your artists should be Artie Shaw, Basie, Ellington. You might not want to see Smith and Burroughs and this guy here, right? However, come to find out, Burroughs actually did a really cool Bugle Call Rag. So now the artist really isn't an issue. But this made-up artist here did something called the 7-second split. I don't know, right? So this song is really standing out up against, you know, Artie Shaw's Man from Mars, Basie's Jumping at the Woodside. That guy, he does have really awesome music, Scott. Ellington's Rockin' in Rhythm, and then Smith playing Business in F, right? All of a sudden, this song comes on. No one's heard of the artist. No one's heard of the song. No one's heard of the melody. No one's heard of the arrangement. No one's heard of the instruments that they're using in there. It's going to really stand out. And so this song, you're probably going to want to remove. However, maybe you have Earl Hines, and you have, what is that song called? Call Me? No. Earl Hines. Frantically Googling. Yes. Call Me Happy. There we go. Call Me Happy. Now, this is a song that I recently found, and it's been around obviously forever, and I'm just a total turd for not playing it before, but really great track. And to me, you know, the arrangement is classic and follows general, you know, swing rules. And while it's not as iconic as Bugle Call Rag or Rockin' in Rhythm, you know, it definitely serves some sense of familiarity. Now, here's where you get a little bit of sticky wickets. If we're in the Balboa world, we have Man from Mars, we have Digga Digga Do, and we have, well, we're going to make it 8 spotlights to make my life easier. Then the last iconic song is, oh, man. Well, we're going to make it 7 because I can't think of one off the top of my head. Shaw. Now, this song really stands out as being problematic because you have iconic song 1, iconic song 2, 3, well, this one's debatable, but 4, 5, and 6. You have all these massively traditionally iconic tracks, and then here's this one. Maybe we'll switch out this for Swimming the Blues. Swinging the Blues by Basie. There we go. So now all of a sudden, this song here just makes absolutely no sense because the level of familiarity of it relative to the songs around it really stands out. Now, if you're sitting down here and you've got, you know, 8 other tracks or 4 other tracks, excuse me, and, you know, you've got 4 other kind of Call Me Happy style tracks, not the same song, obviously. Well, now all of a sudden things start blending in. And you might be able to get away with Call Me Happy inside of all these iconic tracks. But you know, that's a case by case type of basis. But definitely in this setup here with 7 songs, Call Me Happy, the familiarity is really terrible. Familiarity also introduces itself when it comes to the competitors. So if you have a song that the competitors know and that they're familiar with, then they're going to be more comfortable dancing to the song, and they might hit certain breaks, might hit certain horns, might be able to throw in a little bit more complicated of a trick and get the timing right, versus a song they're not really familiar with, where they're trying to figure out what's going on, and at the same time they're trying to compete. And that decision of how familiar do we make the songs often is a question of, well, where is the challenge? Are we how much is the challenge, rather? Are we challenging these dancers? Are we looking for music that no one's ever heard before and to see what these dancers can do? Or do we want to serve it up on a platter and have them all dance to Flying Home and see how cool of stuff we can get? And oftentimes that's the decision for the promoter, which is something that you as a DJ need to have a conversation with the promoter about, is what are they looking? What sort of competition do they want? Some events they take a careful approach where the tempos are a little slower and the familiarity is higher, and they're looking to produce very, very tight results. The difference between first and second, very, very small. Versus some events that are like, you know what, we really, really want to challenge the dancers. We're looking for music that's a little faster, and we're looking for stuff that they don't necessarily know. We really want to challenge them on how good their improvisational dancing is, not necessarily how they can stitch together all these different tricks to songs that they know but like the back of their hand. So that whole discussion is something that you need to have with the promoters, every promoter, and almost every year, as to, well, what are you looking for? And when we talk about that, we also talk about the tempo, and the tempo is 9 times out of 10 dictated by the promoter. It's their event. They have an idea as to what the contest should look like, how it should work, and they're traditionally dancers themselves, and so they're gonna more often than not dictate tempos. Now, as your experience of DJing competitions increases, you get a little bit more leeway from promoters, as well as you get to interject yourself to that conversation. I've been DJing. I've been dancing since '96. I've been DJing since like '98 or something like that. I've been doing ABW for I don't know how many years. So at this point, I've got quite a few competitions under my belt. I've seen a lot of stuff. I've seen the results from making certain decisions. And so when a new event approaches me and says, hey, we want to do this event, we want to do this competition. All right, well, what are your thoughts? All right, well, we're looking at doing, this format. Great. Here are things to be concerned about. Your tempos are too fast, which does this. Your tempos are too slow, which will generate this. And having that conversation with the promoter and discussing, letting them know what things do. So as the tempo increases, the fragility of technique also increases. As the familiarity of songs decrease, the kind of improvisational, what's going on now, am I really paying attention to the music, starts to get put into question. Song lengths, song quantities, competition formats, right? So when you're working an event, talk to the promoter and say, what do you want me to do? And you get the rules from them. And unless it's really weird and you're especially if you're just starting out, then that's what you do. Like I said, there's some events that play slower tempos and more familiar songs because that's what they want. Some events play faster tracks and more familiar songs because that's what they want, right? There's a lot of different factors that go into the promoter's decisions. Let them make the decisions on the tempo. You can assist, but letting them make the decisions is something that I do. I don't know, like I said, 9 times out of 10. Let's so we can't really play. The problem is we can't really play a lot of music on this stream because it's going to be turned into a VOD, and YouTube will ban me for or ban the video for the music choices. So unfortunately, we can't really play a lot of music. But let's keep plugging away at our Open Division finals here. We talked about what makes for a good song. We talked about promoters' interests. We talked about familiar versus unfamiliar songs. So now let's talk about what happens. So you prepared all your music and you're ready for the event and you show up at the event. Well, you have a day of prep, right? So the day of, what are you doing? The day of, and the day of is, a loose thing of the weekend of or whatnot. The first thing that you want to look at is, well, what is the floor like? Right? So is it fast? Is it slow? Is it really weird? Is it massive? Is it tiny? Right? Those are going to dictate possibly some changes in your music. If you're doing a Lindy Hop competition and you're having to dance on ice, then your tempos might need to be slowed down because people are just going to be falling, and that's just not fun, right? If it's really sticky, then you might need to make some changes in terms of speeding things up or slowing things down. You might have, for Lindy Hop, you might be able to speed it up a little bit because it is sticky. The next thing you're going to want to do is, well, what's the sound like? So the sound at an event is your responsibility, along with the sound engineer, along with the promoters who purchased or who rented the sound equipment and the engineer, right? So it's a big conglomeration of a lot of things, but you are responsible for what it sounds like. So while a band has a sound check, I also have a sound check. I have a sound check for social dancing and I have a sound check for competitions. When I do a sound check for competitions, it's a half an hour. When I do for social dancing, it's just a few songs, right? I'm just walking through, and sometimes I don't even get that and whatnot, but that's another discussion. But for the competition side, I am putting on a song and walking the room. I want to know where the dead zones are. I want to know where, if there's any reverb. I want to know how loud it is, how soft it is. I want to know the difference between what it sounds like on the floor and what it sounds like at the DJ booth. Sometimes at the DJ booth, you're sitting in front of the speaker. Sometimes you're behind the speaker, to the side of the speaker, etc. So when I play certain songs, some songs that I have are really low. Some are really high, just how they were recorded. And I need to be able to replicate the correct volume on the dance floor from the DJ booth on the fly. So I am playing a lot of different styles of music and walking around and figuring out what it sounds like all over the room. In front of the speakers, far away from the speakers, in front of the stage, where I am also very specifically looking where, or listening, where are the dancers actually dancing? I stand in that spot. I want to know what they're hearing. Tyler says, is that sound check negotiated with the promoters, or do you take time to do the check during a social dance, or is that per event? It is per event. So there's oftentimes at larger events where there's just closed ballroom time, and I can be like, hey, can I come in here and test my music? And no one's ever said no. At Camp Hollywood, I go in early and there's just no one there. I put on music, no one cares. I get to test the entire system. It's smaller local events. It's normally during a social dance. And it's a good question that you kind of ask, because we're also going to then talk about sound checking while people are dancing. And we're going to get to that in a little bit here in a few seconds. Good question, Tyler. So the next thing we're going to look at is who is there and what's the level of dancers. So now that you've shown up to this event, like, who's actually there, right? Did all the pros that said they were going to show up? Are they competing? Are they not competing? And you need, it gives you an idea of what to expect. Some songs might not be appropriate. Some tempos might not be appropriate for the anticipated level of dancers. You might have been told that this is a super pro invitational and there's going to be all these amazing dancers there, and you show up and people have been dancing for 2 years. Not even the style that you are prepared for, right? They're Lindy Hoppers and they're going to all enter a Balboa competition. So you might have to change the music on the fly. And then the overall level of dancers, because you also have generic competitions, mix and matches, amateur strictlies, where you don't know who's competing. Well, what's the level of dancing? Is your music appropriate for that level? And all of that gets answered during social time. So something that I don't think too many people know, and I've been doing for many, many, many years at like ABW, is I schedule myself to DJ on Thursdays between 10 and 12. And on Thursday, the dance starts like 9 and goes till 3, 4 in the morning. And I DJ from 10 to 12. And from 10 to 12, I sound check all of my competition music. So if you ever, this is your little pro tip, if you compete at ABW and you want to know what music we're playing for the competitions, show up on Thursday between 10 and 12. Because you're going to hear, not so much anymore, because I've tested most of my music, but all the new stuff, I test it. I want to know what it sounds like. I also want to know what do the dancers think of the song, right? So I'll put on a track where I'm just like, a couple of years ago, I think it was from the Savory collection. There was a whole bunch of Count Basie stuff that I was really, really interested in playing, but I just wasn't too sure about it. So I played a whole bunch of it on Thursday night, and I wanted to know what the dancers thought. So I watched them. I watched their energy level. I watched what moves they were doing. I watched if they were enjoying the track. I watched if they looked confused, if they looked comfortable. And then I asked them afterward what they thought of the song. And a couple of tracks I removed from my competition playlist, and a couple of tracks stayed right where they were. So, you know, playing, if you have the ability to DJ for your dancers before your competitions show up, oh my gosh, that is such an advantage. Such an advantage. And DJing, even if it's not for your competitors, but just the overall energy of the room, the overall feeling in the room, the vibe, knowing what people are like, knowing what they're going to be trying to do and doing, helps to sculpt your music even more. Because while 90% of my work is complete before I show up at the event, so I do all this stuff like, you know, song selections before I show up at the event. All my prelims are done, all my finals are done, all my spotlights are done, everything is complete. And then Thursday, you know, or Friday, the first day of the dance, there's some fine tuning of, you know, well, this song didn't quite work, or, you know, maybe the sound is just brutal for really high pitched stuff. So like Glenn Miller's Yes, My Darling Daughter can be rough. Maybe that song gets nixed. Artie Shaw notoriously murders 7 people every competition with his clarinet. That's not anything you can really deal with, but there are a lot of other bands that just have a really maybe bad recording. The high pitch is just something, the tinniness you just can't deal with. Remove the song. Maybe the room is bad, maybe the sound isn't very good, or maybe the sound is amazing and the room is amazing and you get to play all these really, really cool tracks because the sound system is so good. And now that opens up a whole bunch of new music for you that you can play at that event. And so preparing yourself appropriately for that, you know, the night before when you're DJing is just gonna make the event that much better. Let's see here. So we're prepping. So we talked about familiar, unfamiliar, what makes for a good song. Right. So the other thing we're going to talk about when we talk about familiarity of a song is we also talk about the gotcha moments, right? And it's real fun to, you know, to go, gotcha, you know, got him, whatever. And it's on the social floor. That's great. Like you play a version of like Flying Home or something that supposed to have a big break and doesn't have a big break, and you know everyone stops and the song keeps going and you laugh and giggle and snicker, and that's awesome. On the social floor for your friends, super fun. However, there's a lot of tracks. There's a lot of tracks that just vary by a little bit, and there's Traffic Jam by Artie Shaw at the very end. Ba 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 no, and there's this nice hit, right? Nice big pause, nice big break. Everyone's familiar with it. It's classic. If you put on Traffic Jam by Chick Webb, ba 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 no bum bum ba no bum bum, it powers right through it. There's no stop. And the problem is twofold. One, there's nothing in Artie versus Ella Digga-digga-doo. Yeah, another great one. Another great example. Is that Christian? I don't know, Crispian. Is that you, Christian? It might be. Crispy. So there's nothing, going back to the Traffic Jam by Chick Ella. Oh, Guzzo. Okay. What's that, Mike? Traffic Jam by Artie versus Ella Chick. There's nothing in the Ella Chick version that tells you it's Ella Fitzgerald Chick Webb. We'll just say Chick Webb from here on out. There's nothing that tells you that. It sounds very familiar, very similar, almost identical to an Artie Shaw version. Nothing is telling you otherwise, except for when you get to this very iconic hammer, ba 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 ba. Artie Shaw pauses, Chick Webb powers through it. Everyone's stopped on the floor. They look up at you and you snicker. On the social floor, no problem. On the competition floor, no way, man. There's no got-ems on the competition floor. That's terrible. You should feel really bad if you're trying to get people on the competition floor. Don't do it. It happened to me at Cowbell a couple years ago. I played a version of Sugarfoot Stomp that was fairly new to me, and I didn't realize that there was a big hit that was different from all the other normal versions out there. And the competitor paused, and there was no pause in the song, and they were like, well, that happened, and I felt like shit. I apologized to the dancer, and they were super cool, had no issues, very, very polite, very nice about it, very thankful for it. But it's something that I felt bad about, because it's not my intent to get someone. It's, again, if we go back to kind of our guiding principle, working in the service of someone else's creativity, right? So providing them something that is truly satisfying and inspiring to work with. And Gotham is not a part of that. So make sure that your songs are identified differently. So Man from Mars by Artie Shaw, there's 2 different versions. In the very, very, very beginning, one version has this really strong clarinet that the other version doesn't have. Very, very, to me, not iconic, very, very identifiable, right? There's something that separates those two, so that in the very beginning of the song, someone's going to go, oh, this is not the version that I know. You want them to be able to identify that this is or is not the version that they know, so that they can adjust accordingly. Let's see here. So let's move into the and beyond section, and this we're going to talk about construction of competition. So we'll set up a new competition. We're going to have a collegiate shag competition at no, we're not going to do collegiate shag. We'll keep it simple. We're going to do Am, Lindy Hop, Camp, Hollywood. Right, so you're going to have your prelims, you're going to have your heat 1, your song 1, song 2, song 3, and this is going to get copied, say, 3 times. We'll just say this is what we have here. And for this, song 1 for amateur Lindy Hop at Camp Hollywood, gosh, I don't know. I'd probably go 170, 140, 210. I think that sounds pretty good. We're going to do that. We're going to do that. And then we've got our song and artist. So here, what I really enjoy doing is I really like my New Testament bassy. So I'm going to slap in some New Testament bassy in here. And because it really gives me a nice laid back feel. It's high fidelity, so it sounds great coming over the speakers. It's familiar for amateurs. These are all, again, the qualities that we're looking for when we talk about what makes for a good song. And traditionally have tons of energy. Bassy live at Newport is going to be your go-to album for New Testament bassy. Absolutely amazing. You're going to love it if you're not familiar with it. And if you're a DJ and you don't own it, go and buy it right now on Amazon. No excuses. I can wait for you. All right, you guys should have bought it by now. So, going here, oftentimes you get a choice of the 170. I'm kind of like digging on some Glenn Miller right now. In the Glenn Miller theme, it's going to be some Dorsey. And since I'm looking at classic, yeah, you do got to get your laptop, Tyler. Should have had it the whole time. Dorsey, and then gosh, who are we going to put here at 170? What sort of artist do we have? Well, let's just say Cab Calloway. So we'll put Cab in there, and then at 210, I'm looking for some nice, big finale music. So that's, outside of tempos, a Will Get It, then a JATW, and I know that the tempos are really bad, or not accurate, bugle call rag. Right? So in terms of this, we're looking at having some nice consistencies across the song number 1 in each heat. So Miller, Dorsey, and this cab are all going to be, maybe this is even just Miller again. That's totally fine to do, double Millers. These are all really polite, straight ahead, classic swing music. Very introductory, very familiar, very comfortable. The New Testament Basie is going to offer us a nice little DJ trick of, playing, 3 songs from Basie Live at Newport. Nice, solid energy at 140. Very comfortable for the dancers. They're going to be able to hear the beat. And then if the tempos are not accurate, we're going to ignore that for this discussion. We'll Get It, Jump on the Woodside, and Bugle Call Rag are all very, very even for Camp Hollywood in terms of song familiarity. And I say Camp Hollywood because We'll Get It, may or may not be as popular as Jump on the Woodside and Bugle Call, but I know that in the circles that I run, the events that I go to, We'll Get It is, could be considered a staple big finale track. So I'm comfortable putting We'll Get It up against Jumping at the Woodside and Bugle Call Rag in terms of quote unquote fairness across the heats, and making sure that each competitor feels like there wasn't one heat that got the better song than the other ones. If we do, let's say we do a semifinals, which does not happen at Camp Hollywood, but we're gonna do it anyway. Song 1, Song 2, Song 3, and Song 4. Going back here, I'll recall 170, 140, 210, medium, slow, fast, the tempos. Here, we're gonna do something similar. We're gonna do maybe 170, well, let's do 160, 190, 120, and 220. So there's a little bit more variance across these tempos. And let's take a side break here. When I say 170, that could mean 160 to 180, right? But if you have a song here that's 180 and a song here that's 160, these two are really going to stand out. So either, you want maybe plus or minus 5 beats from all the songs in the song number 1 category. So you might be able to go 170 and 180, but then this is going to have to come in at 170 at least, right? And then if you're looking at 170, 170, and 180, well, how fast is this 180 versus how fast is the 170? Because if these 170s feel slower than this 180, it's going to really stand out. So this one, you might want to try to find an alternative track, maybe 176, and maybe this one's 172. I do digital BPM counters now, where I just tap 17 times on my laptop and it gives me a readout, 170.2. But how you do that is up to you. But when it's advertised at 170, that gives you a threshold of 180 to 160, in my opinion. Now, if you come in at 220, I don't know if you can go 230 down to 210, because the difference in tempos here is much greater, only 10 beats a minute off. So this actually might be more of 235 and 215. And this would be the advertised tempo, like at a Balboa event. So your BPMs across the heats, you want to be matchy as much as possible, and not too great of a distance between them. So if we come back down here, our semifinals, going back to that, let's see, we've kind of messed with our tempos. We're going a little slower than the slow here, or the medium, coming in between 170 and 210, dropping it below the 140, and then just a hair faster than the fast one. So giving a little bit of variety and kind of upping the ante a little bit for the amateurs and the semis. And 4 songs. 3 songs is fine. Sometimes often I've run it 4 songs, but you know, that's up for debate as to how much time the event has to put it on, because adding one song is a little bit more than a minute and a half. It's more like 3 minutes to get people, you know, rotated around, all that other kind of stuff. And then running your tempos in this order gives this third song kind of a break for the dancers to rest. If you're running 4 songs, and these are all going to be running a minute and a half each, it's now a real big endurance contest, and you don't want that. Endurance contests are intentional. You have an endurance contest, but a contest at Camp Hollywood that's not advertised as an endurance contest isn't fun when it turns out to be an endurance contest. So make sure that you know, you construct your tempos, and then if you are running a 4-song heat like this, maybe talk to the MC and have the MC give them a breather after this one or after this one. And when you're running your songs in between each one, you know, watch the dancers. See if they could use an extra breath. It's often that, let's like when I do Balboa events and you're running, you know, 190 or like 210, 230, 250 is, you know, I'll give a little bit extra breath in between 230 and 250, because even though they're running a minute and a half for each one, it's still a minute and a half at 230 beats can be exhausting. So I'll look out on the floor. I'll make sure that all the dancers have a new spot on the floor. Sometimes the MCs like to, you know, they're being pushed by the promoter to speed things up. So they're like, all right, dancers, find a new spot on the floor. Here comes your second song. And people are still mulling around. Someone might be changing their shoes, tying their shoes, getting a drink of water. Like, so you as a DJ have to step in and like wait, pause, let them tie their shoe, let them fix their belt, let them fix their numbers on their back, etc. And then hit play. And that's where communicating with your MC, another great topic to have a discussion with them as to, hey, we want to make sure that everyone's got plenty of time to find a spot on the floor, to change their numbers, to, you know, change their shoes if that happens in a Lindy Hop competition, et cetera, et cetera. So watch for that. And, you know, let's work together so that when you say, here comes your third song, yeah, buddy, then I can hit play confidently and run off of that energy. So let's see here. And then we go to the finals. So the finals, we're going to have warm-up, all skates. We're going to have a spotlight, spotlight 1. Whoops. Wow. Spotlight 2. And we were treated very fairly by our judges. We only have 5. A final all skate 1 and a final all skate 2. So this is for, so let's see. For this, I'd probably run the spotlights in the neighborhood of 210. I think that's pretty fair. Maybe 195, 205 maybe. Might be a pretty good spotlight, which is going to put my warm up more like 190 and push my final all skates at 220 or maybe 215 and 226, something like that. You know, these tempos you're going to want to, you know, confirm, talk with the promoter, you know, figure out what the dance floor is like, what the expected level of the dancers is, et cetera, in order to really hone in on what that is. And then, you know, take a note, you know, next year, do we change the tempos? You know, have a discussion with the promoter and say, hey, you know, last year I noticed that the judges needed extra songs in every single preliminary heat. Should we speed up the tempos? Should we make adjustments? Or, hey, I noticed that the amateurs were really struggling at the tempos for the finals. What do you think about lowering the tempos? 5 BPM. And 5 BPM makes a big difference. 10 BPM makes a big difference. It's very, very impactful to drop or increase 5 to 10 beats. So don't think that that's just a little bit. No, it's gonna change things a lot. So now I'm looking at my spotlights, and you know, let's see. Let me do this real quick. Let me go to And I'm looking up there we go, Camp Hollywood. Looking up an existing spreadsheet. What did I do here? Oh, these are all prelims. Well, we're gonna take them anyway. So let's take these songs right here. I'm gonna slap those in. Woo, yeah. Lots of stuff. Oh, we went real slow. Okay, that's not gonna work. Sorry, guys. A little on the fly, trying to figure things out here. All right. Well, we'll keep doing this on the fly. So we're gonna have our song title, artist. So, 190, this is going to be something, pretty classic, something very familiar. These are amateurs. This is the finals. This is just the warm up. So, Joshua fit the Battle of Jericho. First time I've abbreviated that. That's funny. By Bashay. That comes in real nice. That song's super strong, nice fidelity, pretty good energy. It's interesting. It's not too challenging. It's comfortable. Should be very familiar at this point. It's been around for quite a while in the dance community. Solid song. At 205, I know what I can do. I can do this. I can just look up. Ooh, yeah, Darktown Strutter's Ball. So Darktown Strutter's Ball. One Night Stand. So this is by Goodman. We'll call this Artie Shaw. Ooh, Dig-a-Dig-a-Doo. This is by Artie Shaw again. Ooh, Main Stem is great. By Ellington. And then let's see if I can find another 210 lying around this list. How about, oh man, all right. How about Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo by Goodman. All right, so now I know there's only 5 tracks here. Normally there's 8, 9, 10. That makes it a little bit more relevant. But what I'm looking at in terms of my spotlights is I actually DJ the spotlights. And what that means is I don't just say, oh, well, these are the songs, the order in which I thought of them, and then now I'm done. I will actually look at that and be like, all right, well, I don't want Artie Shaw twice in a row. So let's see, space. So I'm going to move this guy out, and I'm going to put Goodman. Well, Goodman can't go there because that's double Goodman's. So then I've got Shaw, and then I've got this. And so now, oh, this is real interesting. So I'd have to do this. So 5 makes it really difficult to kind of, well, I got double duplicates. Well, part of that is just on the fly editing, right? But I don't know. Is there, do I have to choose double Artie Shaw, double Goodman? Can I do better than that? And I'm going to challenge myself to do that. So let's see if I can find, challenge myself as a DJ to do something better than, well, double Goodman, double Shaw. Okay, it's just going to work that way. All right, here we go. So we're going to take out One Night Stand, replace it with Don't Be That Way by Chick Webb. Solid choice. And let's do a classic in the Balboa world, Jamaica Jam by Teddy Powell. Well, I don't know actually if I like Teddy Powell by Jamaica Jam, because looking at my notes, what makes for a good song, familiarity. The familiarity inside of the Lindy Hop community for Jamaica Jam, I don't know. I don't know what it's like. I don't know how familiar it is. And, something else that you can think about is imagine yourself, because we're all dancers, imagine yourself dancing to that song. Does it feel right? Does it feel like you can really throw down your Lindy Hop to Jamaica Jam? And I'm gonna say, nope. Don't like it. And I'm going to go with, I'm going to put this in. Dinah by Chick West. Actually, Count Basie. I like that much better. So, Don't Be That Way. Great energy. Darktown's Charter's Ball. Awesome. Love the arrangement. Very familiar. Digga Digga. Very classic. A little Babo, a little Shag. But I know people still throw down. Main stem. Oh, so good. And Dinah. The melody's familiar. The arrangement might be a little different. The version. But I think that the melody is strong enough that people can still power through it in terms of familiarity. So now when I DJ it, I'm also looking at, well, how do the songs match up together? How do they go well? So I'm going to look at Darktown Strutter's Ball, and I know that one starts with a bang. It just hammers you, the arrangement that I'm thinking of here. So this one, I want to start with that one. So I'm going to put that in the number 1 slot. Main stem is pretty chill and solid all the way through. Digga Digga is super familiar. And I might want to then say, you know what, we're going to put that at the end and kind of end with the bang. And then main stem, Don't Be That Way. I think all 3 of these really blend well together and give a nice sound, and none of them really stand out. The other thing, too, that you're going to want to look at is that maybe this comes in at 208, and then this one is 205. This is maybe 206. This is maybe 200, and this is maybe 210. Well, you might want to put your 210 here and your 205 there to kind of blend your tempos so that one tempo doesn't stand out. Because if you have a 210 right next to a 200, it's really going to stand out in terms of tempo. 24 versions of Dinah of Basie. Oh, Tyler. Let me see here. Let me make sure I have a version of it. Ha! Dinah. Count. Yep. Okay. It exists. So, you don't really want that 200 BPM sitting next to the, sitting next to 210. It's really, really going to spotlight and showcase the variance of tempo. But because you're creating 100 songs for this competition weekend, you do get allowances for tempo variation, right? And tempo variance. Not every song has to sit in at 206. And some songs might dance faster than others. They might feel more energetic than others. And so blending them and DJing them is very helpful in getting that through. What that also does is by doing this ahead of time and DJing it, you're also generating randomness in terms of who gets what spotlight. It's something that comes up a lot. I know that one year at ABW, Todd and Mia got Swing Time in the Rockies, and the following year, Todd and Mia got Swing Time in the Rockies, and that was super funny, at least for me. But it was, how the cookie crumbles in terms of I organized my music ahead of time before I got there, and the way that people came out, it's how they came out, right? I'm not looking to watch people, I don't get a list of the entrants to the prelims. I don't get a list of the finalists beforehand so that I can then say, well, I think that Tyler is really going to dance well to Don't Be That Way, and Scott Kaufman, I know that he doesn't like Darktown Strutter's Ball, so I'm going to give him Dinah instead. That doesn't happen. It's not something that you want to do. It's not something that anyone really wants to have happen. So randomize it by DJing it before you show up, organizing it in a way that the songs make sense going together. Also, it's important too, if you have, let's say that we went back to our Goodman, Shaw, Miller, Ellington, and let's say that we also had more Goodman, more Goodman, and more Goodman. Well, I would hate it if, all 5 Goodman songs got played back to 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 back. Right? So, a competition like this does happen. And for me, I think there was one where it was basically every other artist was Benny Goodman. I'm definitely probably known for doing silly things like that. But to put them all in a row would just sound really weird to me. So, you know, just arrange them ahead of time, and keep them in this order, and don't tell anyone, and don't change it, and you'll be fine. Final all skate. So for this, let's say that we are going to run 2. So this one here, I might run for just a minute. And since it's Lindy Hop, I might actually put this back down to 190. You know, talking to the promoter, find that, hey, we also want to showcase a little bit slower. So actually, let's go 160. And then for the final all skate, you know, we'll do a good 210. And, you know, songs are, you know, something big. Ooh, Swing Time in the Rockies. Ooh, Swing Time in the Rockies a little fast, though. What could we do? Well, we could do Swing in the Blues. Swing in the Blues by Basie. Be really, really solid. I like that idea. So, you know, and then for this one at 160. Huh. You know, for this, you know, Cab Calloway's not bad. Yeah, we could do Cab. Are you all right? And that one has lyrics, and that one's actually pretty good because it's it kind of assists the song, helps to bring it to a slight crescendo and drops the beat, and then continues on, providing a break for the dancers to hit. So I like that. So I think this arrangement is pretty good. I like our tempos. I like our final all skates. Swing the Blues is a little bit longer than that, so naturally, so we'll probably end up doing it 2 minutes, but maybe even just a minute and a half on that. Something you can do is watch the judges and see what they look like. Are they frantically writing a whole bunch of information down, or have they sat down and like they're just chilling and enjoying themselves? Because if all the judges are just enjoying themselves, they're probably done judging. And at a minute and a half, when the dancers start getting pooped out, you can fade it. Because it's not really fun to watch a whole bunch of dancers that are pooped out dancing for no reason, because the judge is already done. But that's something that takes a lot of experience to determine how to do. So in the beginning, I would recommend just running it to time every time. Talk to the promoters, talk to the MC, talk to other professionals, get their opinions before you go. And then when you're there, all right, I run it for a minute and a half unless I'm told otherwise. Sometimes the MC has talked to the promoter and will come over to you and say, I will let you know when to fade it. Okay, fine, no problem. And, you know, they'll ask you, oh, how much time is left? How much time is left? How much time is left? Just let them know. When they want you to fade it, you fade it out. For most songs, there is a point of no return. And I try to communicate that with the MC of like, look, once we get to, you know, 30 seconds left, we're going to run the whole thing. Just because, and the reason is maybe there's a big shout course at the end that just, you're not fading in the middle of that. If you fade in the middle of the shout course, you're going to get booed, right? As well as it might also lift up the dancers and continue them on, right? So, you know, communicate with the MC, let them know when the point of no return comes. And then as soon as it's there, hey man, point of no return. What are we doing? Let it go? All right, we'll let it go. And then it's done. But active and open communication with their MC, very, very important. Let's see here. So we did that. Yeah, so kind of the and beyond, you know, we talked about of, you know, who determines the tempo of the songs. And, you know, oftentimes it's the promoters, right? And as you gain experience, you're going to know what tempos do what to what styles and levels, and you can contribute to the conversation. But oftentimes it's the promoters that do that. The other thing that, you know, we want to talk about is testing your music, and, you know, test your competition music as often as you can. Test it locally, because, and you know, test it at the venue, test it with friends. Songs that sound really good in your headphones might not be so great on the dance floor. There's so many songs that are super classic and absolutely amazing and are the wrong tempo, or don't do anything for 45 seconds, or after 45 seconds die and don't come back until a minute later. But your minute and a half time frame, you can't have half the song being just like So there's a lot of music out there that's really, really good, but not competition worthy. So test it. How the dancers respond to it. Set expectations. Be like, hey, I think that they're going to do this, that, and the other. See what they do. Do they meet your expectations? Talk to them. Ask them. Talk to your friends. Talk to random people. Ask them what they think about it. Getting as much, opinion, as many ideas as possible, based on, who they are in terms of, DJ ability, dance skill, years around. Are they a promoter? Where are they coming from? Right. Understanding that everyone comes from a different angle, and then, categorizing their comments accordingly, because someone who's new might have a different opinion than someone who's been around for 30 years. Right? Oh my gosh, I continually hear Bugle Call Rag. Can we stop playing it? Well, you've danced for 30 years. The guy that just walked into the room, I'm blowing his mind right now. Right? So, understand where the opinions come from, and so that you can make the most educated decision as to the quality of your songs. I think that wraps it up. Again, remember, you're gonna fail. I've talked to you about several of my fails tonight. You have to accept that responsibility of failure, and the criticism that comes with it. Talk to friends. I've had music where I've played it and I said, hey man, what do you think of that song? And they were like, you know what? I didn't like it at all. And I go, okay, great. Why? And they sat down and they explained very rationally and thoughtfully what they felt about the song, how it made them dance, the different sections in it. They really put a lot of thought into it. And I said, okay, that's really cool. Thank you. I'm probably never going to play that song again. And I, to this day, for one specifically, Down for Double. I think it's Down for Double. No, not Down for Double. Oh, man. Miller... something double. Some Glenn Miller song with a double in it. I can't remember now. Is one that I don't play. Because the ideas of why it was an inferior song were presented to me rationally, and I loved the presentation, and I agreed completely. And I hadn't thought about that before I played the song. Sometimes you fail, but you have to accept responsibility and the criticism that follows. And then remember our guiding principle of working in the service of someone else's creativity. That deserves everything that we've got. So spending the time like you are right now, listening to this live stream or listening to this on YouTube, and working on being a DJ, a competition DJ, a social DJ, or even a dancer, listening to all this and like where the DJs are coming from when they present music is exactly what you should be doing. And trying to improve, who you are as a DJ, what you're providing to your dancers so that you can give them the best that there is to offer in terms of music quality, music selection, and in offering them the ultimate platform to express their creativity and to feel inspired by. So that's where we're going to end.